Tonight, the Arena Football has suspended operations.
It was very depressing to know that this happened for the simple fact that they cut out what you love to do.
Well, now the league is back under new ownership.
Hi, Lee Hutton, AFL Commissioner. The AFL is back, baby.
There's some questions tonight surrounding the newest version of the Arena Football League.
It was a scam to begin with.
The Arena League's in a bad spot.
Very bad.
There will be a lawsuit coming.
Some guys are stuck here.
Our head coach was not there. He unfortunately had to retire/quit the other day.
Lee needs to answer his phone.
Lee Hutton is nowhere to be found right now.
Lee Hutton III ousted as commissioner of the Arena Football League.
The team is folded and they don't have any money to pay us.
Is your group aware of those claims, and are you planning to address them?
I'd like to extend a formal apology to the Arena Football League community. Getting from season 1 to season 2 is going to be a significant jump for us.
Let the celebration begin in Albany. The Albany Empire, the city of champions for the first time in 20 years. Their second AFL title, Tommy Grady, our Transfinder Player of the Game. Embraced by his teammates and by the soul. Confetti rains down at the Times Union Center.
In a statement today, the Arena Football League announcing that they filed for bankruptcy and they are fully ceasing operations. This means we won't be seeing any more Albany Empire games at the Times Union Center.
And a big loss today for fans of the Philadelphia Soul and the Atlantic City Blackjacks. The Arena Football League is no more tonight.
Tonight, the Arena Football has suspended operations for its 6 member franchises, including the Columbus Destroyers. The Destroyers just returned to Columbus this year after more than a decade out of business.
Sports Director Jared Smalley here now with what we've learned about why they're shutting down for now.
It's very simple. Comes down to money. And the Arena League operators say they are facing significant financial troubles related to pending multi-million-dollar lawsuits filed by a former insurance provider for the league.
Was that a difficult time when the league folded and there was just uncertainty for years?
Yes, it did. It was very depressing to know that this happened for the simple fact that, you know, when they cut out what you love to do, you know what I mean? It's very disheartening. But the main thing is what it did to the fans, too. You know, I know the fans were very upset about it.
Let the celebration begin. The Philadelphia Soul are the 2016 Arena Bowl champions.
I'm Anthony Carter, and I'm the founder of Arena Insider and X1 Media based out of Philadelphia. I started in May 2014, originally as Philadelphia Soul Insider, before expanding to cover the entire Arena Football League later that year. From 2014 to 2019, we were fortunate to have several photographers and writers, or insiders as we call them, covering teams from the East to the West Coast. When the league ceased operations in 2019, I shut down the site and had no plans to keep it running. Then on February 1st, 2023, I just randomly saw the league trending online. So the league sent out a short press release with 2 words, quote, "We're back." Now, the announcement was significant at the time because not only is it the return of a historic league, but also Lee Hutton III was labeled as the first Black commissioner of a pro sports league.
And it's an amazing responsibility, a responsibility that I take very seriously. But when somebody kind of, tugged my coat, I didn't know it was true because there's so many wonderful people of color who've done amazing things in the C-suite executive. Kevin Warren, who's now the president of Chicago Bears, and just to be just among these pioneers in the discussion is just a wonderful, humbling feat within itself.
So Hutton is an attorney based out of Minnesota. His wife, Deanna, is also an attorney and the owner of the now defunct Minnesota Myth, one of the expansion teams. According to Lee, she was also the first Latino woman to be owner of a professional sports team.
I remember years ago when I was dating my now husband, we were watching football. We were watching the Patriots, and he was like, "If you were to play football, what position would you play?" And immediately, without even thinking, I was like, "Owner." He's like, "That's not a position." No, that is a key position. If you don't have a good leadership,
like
if
how
you
you think.
don't have a good leadership, you don't have anything. So when this opportunity presented, I was like, yeah, why not? I can do this.
A few months later, the league released this video revealing 16 teams listed, but the 2024 season didn't include 8 of them: Austin, Texas, Tallahassee, Florida, San Antonio, Cincinnati, Denver, Chicago, Bakersfield, California, and Boise. Instead, the league announced a merger with the Champions Indoor Football League and acquired the Southwest Kansas Storm, Wichita Regulators, Rapid City Marshals, and Salina Liberty. The other 4 teams were the Albany Firebirds, formerly known as the Empire, Iowa Rampage, Georgia Force, and Billings Outlaws.
We purchased the Billings Outlaws in late 2022 when it was in distress. Worked hard in 2023 to turn the organization around. Had the opportunity to join the AFL for the 2024 season, and thought it was a great opportunity to bring the Billings Outlaws onto a national stage. And, you know, the Outlaws are a historic franchise in the indoor and arena football industry. They've been around for on and off for nearly 25 years, and we're the first 2 IFL champions. So it was an opportunity to bring the arena game to Billings. And at the time, I thought it was an amazing opportunity to showcase arena football to Billings, Montana.
Compared to the other leagues, we're kind of infant. What I want to do as we move forward, and I can't do this without your help and your guidance, is to really make indoor football one of the top 3 watch sports here in this country.
Leading up to the beginning of the season, there started to be many early red flags that I kept a close eye out on from a journalist standpoint. Many team websites and social media accounts weren't set up, home venues weren't listing games, and I reached out to league officials for an interview request and never heard back. But what truly got my attention was when the league held a media day in Albany without any media present.
Hey guys, we are out here at 2024 AFL Media Day. We can't wait to see you in Albany, New York for the first game of the season on April 27th.
Usually, if you have a media day, you invite journalists ahead of time, maybe some season ticket holders, whoever, and you allow them to ask questions, get to know the team and the league, especially with there being new management. But the people I talked to that was at the event told me there was barely anyone there. Another red flag was the schedule release. Some teams had more road games than home or vice versa. The Louisiana Voodoo had to change cities and venues at the last minute. Then there's the Georgia Force, who had all 10 games scheduled to be on the road.
Initially, when I first signed, we had 5 home games. My mom works for Georgia State University. We were being told at one point we're going to use Georgia State's new basketball convocation center for the arena. And so I'm asking her, like, hey, do you have any connections to know if we're really playing there? And she wasn't really hearing anything about it. And so I'm like, okay, well, it's a little weird, but we're fine. We're going to have home games, whatever. And then maybe a week after I'd signed, right before training camp had started, where the league is posting saying we're going to be a travel team only. And that's right after the Philadelphia Soul was announced to be a travel team. And then they kind of reversed that and said they found a home arena in New Jersey or something like that.
So Philadelphia, you know, they have this arena in a location where there's not many arenas out there, and they have a lot of people tugging at that arena, and that's been a tough situation. Now, listening to the fans, that's one team I'm bringing back. Me and Travell said we are bringing back Philadelphia Soul. We don't care what we have to do, and I think we accomplished that. And so, navigating them having home games and doing some away games has been a challenge, with the schedule. And that's been kind of the delay.
Because the Wells Fargo, that's a number one place that Philadelphia Soul has always been known to play. But there's also that issue that they're having as far as finances. Like they're trying to charge an awful lot of money for the Philadelphia Soul to even play. They're not saying that they didn't want us to. It's just that they're trying to make us pay a substantial amount of money to do so. And not only that, it's not just because of past things that happened. A lot of it is due to they're doing a lot of new construction in there. And of course, they got to be able to pay for those things. And of course, inflation, they putting those prices up there now. So, and their main thing is you got to pay to play. And thereafter, I haven't heard from the man since. That's Mr. Hutton. I haven't heard from him, I haven't spoken to him. And, and then everything was just left in the air. Questions, there's just a million questions that's left in the air as far as the team is concerned. So it's very frustrating.
When the Arena Football League dissolved in 2019, it took the Philadelphia Soul with it. The Soul was considered one of the most successful Arena League teams and winning 3 championships during the league's last time around.
Well, now the league is back under new ownership, and so is the Philadelphia Soul.
So last time we spoke, we were getting ready for the new season, bringing back the Philadelphia Soul, everything after 5 years. And now things have changed really just over the last couple of months or so. First thing, how are you doing? How's the team doing? And what's the status of the Philadelphia Soul?
Man, I'm doing pretty good, man. Things didn't end the greatest, but it is what it is, man. I still run my contracting business, still take care of my little girl. And as far as the team is concerned, man, a lot of the guys did separate and go to different teams, which I was very thankful for. I was able to help a few guys, man, to get to certain places. But other than that, man, coaches, I've been in touch with coaches. They've been doing pretty good, doing their thing, just went back to their own personal lives. Some of them actually went back coaching other places, which is a good thing. And others just sitting back and relaxing, man. But other than that, man, all has been well since then.
It's late April and it's the week of opening games. The Soul were preparing to travel for their first game against the Louisiana Voodoo. But I don't think anyone was prepared for the domino effect that started that week.
I'm just at the airport now. I'm at Philadelphia International. I'm on my way home from the airport because I didn't, I got to the airport, I got to the gate. There was maybe 1 or 2 players there. There was no coaches, there was no staff. Yeah, we didn't get on the airplane. We didn't hear anything from the coaches, we didn't hear anything from the ownership, we didn't hear anything from the GMs. I texted the GM a bunch of times to kind of see what's happening. I didn't have anyone else's number. Our head coach was not there. He unfortunately had to retire/quit the other day.
Anybody that's close to the situation knows, really, I don't think Pimmel was at fault for any of this. Pimmel was trying to be the GM of the team, which isn't his job title, and pretty much the owner of the team. And he was doing 50 million other responsibilities but coaching. But honestly, once Joe started saying, hey, Pimmel hasn't been at practices, and I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, he's been out like doing 50 million other things and then Joe started saying like, our water bottles just came in. And then now around like a week ago was the time, or a little bit more was the time, like the food stopped for the guys. The team was never paying for food for the guys, which is completely irresponsible and is not what happens in any of the arena leagues.
In addition to Pimmel resigning, Arena Insider broke the story that players were kicked out of their rooms of the team hotel in New Jersey. The hotel allegedly held onto the players' belongings until they were paid. Many of the players did not even receive a flight to the game. And on top of that, they were handed these release papers. We blurred out the player's name for legal reasons. Nothing is written on the document listing out the reasons for the termination, other than that the player is entitled to a $300 payment.
Commissioner Hutton gets on a teleconference with the whole team pretty much the night before they got put out on the street. And he's bringing my tweets up to the team and telling them that he's going to open an investigation on the team and figure out who's leaking information, which is not leaking information. That's the well-being of your players and your franchise. If you don't want that out in public, do better. You know what I'm saying? It's just called taking care of human beings. And so, from then on, he told the whole team, lied to the team. I wasn't aware of any of these things. I wasn't aware of, they gave him the list of problems and presented them to the commissioner. He said he was going to work with the GM and to address these issues. And then, from my knowledge, guys had already seen email strand between him and Pimmel, where Pimmel was already voicing these concerns to the commissioner, and the commissioner just had not addressed them at all.
Ball turned over by Philly that turns into a voodoo touchdown.
The game went on as planned, but the league hired replacement players from another league to play for the team. But the Louisiana Voodoo were also facing similar hardships.
Breaking sports news, the Louisiana Voodoo Arena football team moving to Lafayette from Lake Charles. Sources tell me the main reason for the switch of the cities is the inability to work with the management company ASM, the management group in Lake Charles. The team will play at Blackham Coliseum this season, and the field will be installed this weekend.
The management company, they released a full statement through their attorney that the AFL had failed to pay their rent or provide an insurance certificate, so their contract there was terminated. So after the contract was terminated, I wanted to see what was happening in Lafayette and if the same thing was happening to the event coordinators there. And I learned that the AFL did provide a certificate of insurance to the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, but the Minnesota Myth was listed as the insured party. I'm not sure how that got through. And I'm not sure what the insurance said on Lake Charles, but from what I understand, they didn't provide an insurance certificate at all. So the contract stated that renting the Coliseum for their home games would cost a little over $60,000. And as far as the payment terms, the AFL agreed to pay a 50% deposit prior to their first game. And they would have to complete all their payments by 2 weeks before their last game. Now, the league wanted to put a check in the mail, but ULL put a stop to that and said that they couldn't do it, that it needed to be a credit card payment. And that's whenever we see correspondence between the travel board and University of Lafayette with the $20,000 subsidy. We also saw that May 9th, the university sent Lee Hutton a letter demanding that 50% deposit or they would be barred from access to the Coliseum. Coach Shiver told me that Travell Gaines paid $6,000 before their first game. So I requested copies of all AFL payments from the university, and I was only provided with one receipt, and that receipt was for $5,000.
I get a phone call literally at noon telling me that my players had to check out of the hotel because all the hotels were rented for Festival International, and that the league sent me a text that they were going to figure out where we're going to sleep. We'll probably have to sleep out of town for a couple nights for the festival, and then we'll move back into town. That was the text message I had on my phone. Never questioned anything. Come to find out, Anthony, that's not the truth. Okay, yeah, we had to move out of that hotel for Festival International, but the players had no place to stay. And so at halftime, I started texting the league, finding out where we're going that night because I want to be able to tell the guys after the game. We had a big lead, and I just was going to, there was no reason for me to focus on the game at that point. So I sent a text, hey, where are the guys sleeping at tonight? I'm thinking maybe in a little town called Doosan, maybe in a little town called Opelousas. They got these little surrounding areas with hotels, and I thought maybe one of those little areas, okay? Crickets. A text message comes back sometime in the fourth quarter. I get it when the game is ending. And it says, Coach, send the guys home. We're going to regroup and start over again next week. Now, Anthony, half of my team is from other parts of the United States. If I send my guys home, how do I get them back? How do they get home without their paychecks? I do feel like, I've been lied to. My players have been ripped off. They don't have housing. I'm upset for my community. I'm upset for the bills that are unpaid in my community. All those things. I'm upset about that. Yeah, I'm definitely upset about it. And I'm not going to quit fighting until that's done right. If I have to hire lawyers to make that happen.
It's really a shame that the Louisiana Voodoo wasn't able to continue on in the league, because I think it could have been something really good for Lafayette and for Louisiana.
And wouldn't you know, opening week, opening game, overtime here at the MVP Arena in Albany, New York.
Before the season, Arena Football League announced NFL Network will broadcast 30-plus games over air and online. The Week 1 games to be televised were scheduled to be the Orlando Predators against the Albany Firebirds on April 27th.
Kick is up, and it is good! Mark Orozco's field goal gives Albany the 62-59 victory in overtime.
And the West Texas Desert Hawks and Georgia Force was the other game the next night. But days prior, fans noticed games were removed from NFL Network's channel lineup.
And the new time kickoff was, we can explain that, it was for the NFL Network. We thought we were going to be on there, and they wanted a 1 o'clock Eastern time kickoff. That's why we had this weird time. You should see most of the games, though, Saturday night at 7.
League officials never shared an official statement on why the games were not televised, but instead addressed it on its podcast by host Rod Villagomez.
There has been some issues as far as just getting people to talk together and having some equipment issues and stuff like that. So what we are doing now and what's happening is the NFL Network games will be moved to Week 2.
However, Arena Insider later confirmed with NFL Network officials that it pulled the plug on the AFL. The full details of my call with them was off the record, but what I can say is that it had nothing to do with the reason that was shared on the podcast. The Desert Hawks shut down towards the end of the season. Owner Zach Buck addressed fans and the media on everything that happened over the last few weeks, while largely criticizing Arena Football Management, which is owned by Lee Hutton. More notably, he made a stark claim about why the game was not shown on NFL Network.
This whole amazing NFL Network deal that was going to happen, right? And they sent us emails proving, what it was, how it's going to be, what it is, what it isn't. Hey, come to find out, now we have to pay the NFL Network just to have a game. Well, my sponsors and my fans and the community of West Texas deserve to have the NFL Network, because that's what we promoted, because that was based on really a lie of the AFL and what Lee Hutton was really trying to provide. So I forked over money for that, so we could have the NFL Network on April 28th playing the Georgia Force, and they took that money and ran with it. So yes, I paid to have that game broadcasted, and it still didn't happen.
Bug also spoke about the injunction that nearly sidelined his team. The National Arena League sued the Desert Hawks, who were in its league at the time as the Warbirds, for breaching a 3-year contract to join a competitive league. The NAL were granted the motion before Week 2. In a statement at the time, Bug initially dismissed the suit and said it was baseless, but he settled with the NAL later that week.
This injunction was never supposed to take place, and this injunction isn't on the NAL. I want to make that very clear. So, a lot of people like NAL is trying to destroy the Desert Hawks. The NAL is trying to destroy West Texas. That's not the case. We were supposed to have a deal worked out with Lee Hutton, and I trusted and confided in him to make sure everything would be handled. And if any money had to be paid, the amount of money that I already paid to the league, Lee Hutton would put forward the amount of money that I paid, take a percentage of that, whatever the number was at the end of the day, and give it to the NAL. So this injunction never took place. Well, this injunction took place in Georgia. I honestly didn't have an attorney in Atlanta, Georgia, and anywhere in the state of Georgia at all. So I was hit with an injunction, honestly, 48 hours before it happened. Obviously, I couldn't get there in time, whatever the case may be. You got to get an attorney, et cetera, couldn't get it. What I didn't know, to fast forward, is Lee Hutton has a prominent minority group of the AFL, or so he says, that can represent me in Georgia after the injunction hits, which is very surprising to me. And everything that he says as a man and as a person has been nothing but a lie, knowing that there was an attorney that could have represented me in the case through everything that went on with all of that league and everything else. And I can't dig into that aspect of it because I have respect for the NEL, and we have legal reasons we can't dig into that. But Lee Hutton could have done something about the injunction, and he did not. And therefore, it put me in a financial situation to where I had to pay X amount of dollars for this entire situation just to get it to go so my football team, my players, and my coaches in West Texas could see our team play.
For the Georgia Force, the team was one of a few that were owned by the league. That alone seemed to ignite tension between the coaches, players, and the entire league community.
I was inactive for week one, so I did not travel to week one. And I was one of only 2 players that was left inactive at home. But from group text messages and other conversations I've had with teammates, there were multiple times where our kicker was buying meals for a multitude of players on the team. Our coach got very frustrated with players on the team and said, "I'm done with y'all. I'm not even buying any y'all's food. It's on y'all for the night," and things like that. And it didn't seem like it was a very good trip for the team at all. Obviously, the result wasn't what we wanted as an organization either. But it just kind of seemed like a mess from the start. We were told very last minute when the flight would be. We just had to show up to the airport and hope we had a ticket, and then hope it was provided on the way back.
There's some questions tonight surrounding the newest version of the Arena Football League.
Well, the league is getting some bad press after one of their teams actually pulled out just a couple weeks into the inaugural season. Maury Glover joins us now from the newsroom with details on this for us tonight. Maury?
Well, the Arena Football League is where players like Kurt Warner started before making their way to the NFL. But this latest reboot is facing some challenges.
Following the news about the Soul and the Voodoo after week one, questions flared up about the state of the Arena Football League to the point it gained national attention.
And Arena football is taking place. Just go on X and just search like Arena League right now. And just start scrolling. They got a real Bush League shady operation cooking over there from what we've been told. Good. Some teams have run up $25,000 bills at Super 8 motels, and the players are being told they have to pay that or get the hell. Guys are sleeping in cars right now in the Arena League. They're playing on arena football fields that have uprights that are like twisted and down. Pads not even covering all the walls in some of the photos. The Arena League's in a bad spot.
Very bad.
Okay, players get screwed allegedly, which is always taking place in these spring leagues. The players are the ones that end up having to suffer the whole blow. But we want to let everybody know, hey, we're pulling for you.
That's right. Good luck.
More football is better football.
Sure.
Even still to this day, Lee Hutton and CEO Travell Gaines have been mostly silent about the claims. Both have ignored Arena Insider's multiple requests for comment. On April 26, Gaines subtly posted on X, quote, "Believe nothing of what you hear and half of what you see," end quote. The situation after that weekend was addressed on the league's weekly podcast, but the comments this time around were unexpected.
So let me tell you right now, if you are one of those people that love to watch the world burn, you're going to continue to watch it burn. But if you're someone that enjoys football and loves to support players continuing their professional career, this is the league for you. And I know there's a lot of frustration over that, but would you rather have a half-hearted answer right now or a full explanation when things get fleshed out? I think I know the answer to that, especially as somebody who enjoys knowing the story and not getting pieces of it all over the place. So we wait patiently and we celebrate the players that took the field this week to play and had some fantastic plays.
After opening weekend, it was 24-hour news coverage among all the teams. Heading into week 2, there were multiple game schedule changes. The Oregon Blackbears played a couple of home games at the Oregon State Fair and Exposition Center in Salem. There were cattle gates with padding on the sides. The rebound nets weren't standard and had internet issues that affected live updates and streaming.
There's a lot of backlash on social media that maybe, obviously it's warranted because of what the fences are. But I was thrown into it a couple times players were hit into it. Obviously, they moved a lot more than they should, and the walls do need to get better. So let me go on record by saying, like, they need to improve. Oregon needs to improve that. But they were not as bad when you're thrown into it as what it looks. But obviously, in the long term, you're still really like you're still hoping that nobody really gets hit into it the right way and really gets hurt. So you're really kind of living on the dangerous side there.
The Billings Outlaws were scheduled to be heading there, but according to Titus, they were informed by the league to not play in Oregon because of safety concerns. Instead, the Outlaws were switched to be playing the Washington Wolfpack. But then the Georgia Force were moved to be on the road against the Black Bears, which caused confusion.
Well, dude, don't you know that all the owners start reaching out to me right away? All of them. And the weird thing is, the spin to the owners from Hutton was Louisiana is just a terrible safety issue. They can't play a game there. None of that was true, man. You could play right now on there. The net system was always our only problem. Okay? And you know, the funny thing is about that, Anthony, you could send Georgia, who was supposed to play us last week, to Oregon to play with literal rodeo fencing for the dashboard system and 2 inches of padding, or you could have came to Louisiana where there's soft boards, the dashboard system, and 4 inches of Sportex Arena Football 2 turf. Sportex Arena Football 2 dashboard padding, and you would think it's safer in Oregon? No, it's not any safer in Oregon. The problem is Oregon needed to win. They probably had more attendance in their week 1 than we did, or their exhibition game, and so Oregon gets Georgia.
The Voodoo and the Rapid City Marshals were given a bye week with no explanation from the league. On May 2nd, the Iowa Rampage were the first team to officially cease operations. Co-owners Trevor Burdett and Mike Taliaferro said they were unsure at first when the AFL approached them before the season, but they agreed to join the league anyway. In the letter, the owners said the league promised to cover travel to games and a significant portion of player pay. But as time went on, the owners say there started to be red flags and payments were never received. Players and coaches were also frustrated, not just with the league, but with the owners as well.
And we found out at the same time everybody else on social media found out. They didn't have the respect to come down and talk to us as men, you know, and as professionals, you know, and tell us to our faces like, man, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. Because after that, there was no getting a hold of the owner, the GM, nothing, man. Before that, the problem was getting us paid, you know. We weren't being paid. Like they told us one day we were going to get paid. That day came, it didn't happen. Another day came, didn't happen. You know what I mean? Some guys are making their way home, and some guys are stuck here with nowhere to go. What's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong, you know, and there's a lot of wrong in this. Like, it's very sad. And, you know, for me, I got my family out here. I got my kids. You know, my wife was preparing and cooking meals for the team. You know, my wife has labored, man, out here cooking for the team, man. Like, she's prepared over 800 meals, you know. Like, she cried when all this was happening, man. It's very sad and unfortunate, you know. Like, we were sold on something that really wasn't what it was.
So with all that going on, the NFL Network deal and league-wide pay concerns, then Commissioner Lee Hutton was expected to address the AFL community on its YouTube channel on May 2nd, right after the Albany Firebirds and Nashville Cats game.
He's going to throw to the end zone, pass is incomplete, and that's going to do it.
As people waited for the live stream, it was suddenly canceled and the event was removed from YouTube. That all but sealed the owners, players, and fans' trust in the leadership.
Lee needs to answer his phone. He needs to return messages. He needs to be in front of this. He needs to get out here and explain to our community and to the entire country what in the world is going on.
In last week's league meeting that was called, he promised that the players would be getting paid, the CIF contracts would be upheld, and that we would be on the NFL Network in week 2. Lie, 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 lie. All he has done as of late to the team owners that are in our league calls is lie and give continuous mistruths. Our teams are losing money because of his lies. Every Friday morning, we have an owners meeting Lee Hutton didn't call the owners meeting today. He didn't even send an email saying he was canceling the owners meeting today. He didn't ask the owners if he should appear on the podcast, the AFL podcast last night or not. You know, when you need a leader, they need to be at the front, showing you the way that it needs to be done and to lead us through any kind of obstacle or hurdle that comes our way. Lee Hutton is nowhere to be found right now. He won't answer calls. He won't respond to texts. He won't show up to league meetings. He's doing everything wrong that a leader can possibly do. And he needs to do the easy thing for the AFL to sacrifice, to ensure that we are not sacrificial and that we have any path of prosperity, and do the manly thing in this situation and to resign as commissioner. That's what the best thing that could happen to the AFL right now is if Lee Hutton resigns this instant as commissioner.
Heading into week 3, things started to quickly collapse around the league. On May 10th, Force quarterback Justin Arf launched a GoFundMe for his teammates to get home.
We got a text in our group chat saying that the team is folded and they don't have any money to pay us. You know, we had just hit information to be paid and everything like that. So it's like a big question mark, you know, what's really going on? And I think that's the biggest thing for a lot of us is that we don't really know what's going on. You know, it's not really, because I'm a believer that, you know, I don't like putting blame on people, especially individuals. But somewhere in the organization of everything, things failed. And it's a question of where it failed, what happened, and really what's going on, because we got lives, man. You know, we real life grown men out here.
On May 12th, Rapid City Marshals players took a stand against the league and its owner by forfeiting its home game against the Billings Outlaws.
Players sat out because they had only been paid $250 out of the $1,000 per game that's promised in their contract. In the days since, a multitude of announcements have come from the league and from the Marshals. Most notably on Friday, half of Rapid City's roster left the team because they were told their wages wouldn't exceed $250 a game moving forward.
So the more that we started seeing the cracks in the walls and some of the things that seems like they were getting ignored by a lot of people, the more it became apparent that we had to act on it. The guys were proud that we stepped up and that we, you know, stuck together as a team to write a message to the entire league.
You know, had we not done it in that way, I don't think it wouldn't have been felt as strong.
Also on May 12th, Minnesota Myth head coach Ricky Foggy and special teams coordinator Javon Herring resigned. The team then canceled its away game against the Albany Firebirds.
Being delayed 3 weeks on paying the guys and just everything leading up to that moment. And, you know, it's always going to be, oh, next day, the next day, the next day. And I don't know about you, but I don't like going to work and not getting paid.
So Diana Hutton, she's the owner of the Myth, in case people don't know. How involved was she with the team?
Leading up to it, she was pretty involved. You know, she seemed very excited to be a part of this organization. She seemed motivated. You know, she was all about, let's get in the community, let's do this, let's do that. The only thing is, it had to involve no money from the get-go. You know, I offered, hey, could we go to high schools? Can we do this? What if they want you to donate a couple $100? No. The answer was just no when it came to money. They didn't want to spend money on the extra clips for the pads. They didn't want to spend money on tape. You know, the coaches, the equipment manager had to fund everything.
The next day, the Minnesota Myth informed its players to go home immediately and that it will cease operations, the fourth team to do so at this point behind Philadelphia, Louisiana, and Iowa.
In a statement to fans, owner Diana Hutton said in part, the promise of bringing another professional team to Minnesota was bright and filled with hope. Unfortunately, the effort was lost in the waves of negative chatter and misinformation that plagued social media.
While Deanna said there was pressure to force her husband Lee to resign, the remaining league owners and G6 Sports, who owns the identity of the Arena Football League, approached a different direction just a few hours later. We're following several different breaking news stories for our YouTube and podcast subscribers. As of Monday night, Lee Hutton III ousted as commissioner of the Arena Football League. Owners voted unanimously to remove Hutton and appointed current Nashville Cats owner Jeff Fisher as interim commissioner.
Hi, Lee Hutton, AFL Commissioner, and in my hands I have the first authentic Zenith Partnership helmet of the AFL. I've signed it myself. The AFL is back, baby.
Following the vote to remove Lee Hutton III as commissioner, communication and the overall energy around the Arena Football League drastically improved from a media standpoint. The day after, on May 15th, new commissioner and Nashville Cats president Jeff Fisher appeared alongside Chris Chetty, who is part of G6 Sports. The company has owned the trademarks to the AFL since 2022.
I'd like to extend a formal apology to the Arena Football League community. To our fans.
You started out with your statement apologizing to the AFL community. In that moment, why did you feel like that was necessary?
Because they've never signed up for this. This is not a league that just came out a couple years ago. This is 35 plus years of history and prestige. And obviously the AFL's hit the high of the highs and the lows of the lows. But at the end of the day, nobody deserved this. And the fact that, I bought the marks back in 2022, a 2-year window I thought was going to be a good enough time. And it would have been had I been operational for those 24 months. But I wasn't. So now I'm trying to cram 24 months worth of work into, we're on 3.5 weeks. And I got about 65 more days to go to get through the season. So I know I got my work cut out, but I'm very fortunate to have my entire leadership team behind me on this.
Arena Insider traveled to Nashville to meet with the Cats ownership group a few weeks after Fisher was tapped as interim. I sat down with veteran AFL head coach Dean Kokinos.
And considering how this season started so far, what was your reaction when you started to see things kind of unfold day after day?
It's been nonstop, so it's a lot. I don't think we've had a chance to breathe yet and have a view of it. Everybody's just working so hard, trying to do so many things, and everybody's wearing many hats. And I think the goal is just get through this year and build a strong base for the league and for our organization, but really put a staple in the ground and just build off it, right? And I think that's all we're right now. Everybody's just working so hard to build this thing, and we have a chance to step back and see. I think it's going to be pretty cool what everybody's done to build this league. I think if there's a true chance to grow this thing and get through this year and keep building, it's going to be with Jeff's leadership at that position. So it's awesome for everybody.
Do you think he can turn this around?
I think so, absolutely, without a doubt.
A lot of the teams that have folded, like Georgia Forest, Philadelphia Soul, just to name a few, a lot of the players and the coaches have been one of their main concerns were that they're not getting paid, and then they weren't playing under the right conditions. Is your group aware of those claims, and are you planning to address them?
Yes, I am getting case studies, live case studies on a day-to-day, and I'm paying very close attention to that. But we're also looking at a broken model right now, and that's addressing the elephant in the room. So we know that the structure needs to really be restabilized from the ground up. So everything from salaries to workman's comp insurance to stadium deals to rev share, like all of those things need to be like we have them rebuilt. I just need to structure it all together properly. So then that way, the goal is, I call this season 1A, and then going into season 2 is 1B. So it's like, how can we get through this season, keep our head above waters while we're rebuilding the foundation for 1B, which will be next year.
And obviously our kicker has mentioned in our group chat, since our coach has now left the group chat, things like that, that there will be a lawsuit coming. Before coach left the group chat, our kicker laid out some information to us that he had more information that none of us on the team knew because of his attempts of trying to be a general manager or in ownership group or sponsors that he had kind of worked to try to get us in a home arena. He tried to get us and sponsors and all this other kind of stuff because he's well connected in the area and wanted this to be so successful. And obviously Lee Hutton and Coach Rockamore declined it because I felt like they wanted to keep power. Obviously I didn't know that when I signed, but just informed them that, hey, you will be getting sued by us and the team. And obviously our goal from that point on is like, okay, let's get the wages that we rightfully deserve.
During restructuring, the league was moving forward with 9 teams, leaving Oregon out the mix.
Explain that situation more and the decision behind that.
I think it's a, without getting into too much details, I think it was a pretty natural scenario where, we obviously started not we, but I mean, the season started with 16 teams, and, that number dwindled down after, things were starting to uncover themselves. And, we're also trying to maintain the teams who can be, able to stay on board and ride out the rest of the season. And we try to make some things work, but just based on logistics and legal relationships, we feel that it's best that right now the 9 teams that are on our website are the 9 teams that are going to finish this season.
After that point, skepticism grew on the legitimacy of the Black Bears organization. Humble was the main partner of the league with the intent to provide digital services, including website and ticket sales. On May 28th, the company said it was unsure on a partnership. But during a company shareholder meeting in July, CEO Brian Foote shared interesting remarks about officially cutting ties with the league.
We completed full arena testing in the first half of the year, meaning customers were able to buy their tickets with us, enter an arena, watch a football game. So we completed that in the first half of 2024. Please note, AFL was a partner of ours. That's out, that's done. So it was wonderful for us to be able to test arena games there in Oregon and get our Humble stack very confident that we can go sell other arenas, stadiums, pro sports leagues, concerts, whatever. And we also re-upped with Oregon, which was the team we were serving there. If they do go to another league or move to another football league next year, we look forward to working with them again, as we have a good relationship with their ownership group, and they put Humble to the test, liked it, and re-upped with us. So that's all we can ask for, and we wish certainly the AFL the best of luck going forward.
Foote mentioned ownership group, but there was never one to begin with in Oregon. Before the season, the league announced New York Giants linebacker Kayvon Thibodeau would lead the Black Bears ownership group. The draw was that he is a University of Oregon alum, which is located in Eugene, about a couple of hours away from Salem. Then Commissioner Lee Hutton said in a release, quote, "There's no better person to lead the Black Bears than a true Oregon star like Kayvon, who understands the fans' insatiable appetite for success." But I noticed Kayvon never mentioned the Black Bears this season. So on May 26, I reached out to confirm if he is the owner, and he said, quote, "I was never part of the league. They used my name for publicity," end quote. He declined to provide further details on that.
Jason Santoni to attempt, mishandled the snap. Santoni going to air it to the corner. Pass is caught. The 2-point conversion. Santoni to Pouncey.
So the owner of the Black Bears was technically Arena Football Management LLC, which is owned by Lee Hutton.
My father told me that each individual is faced with a unique set of circumstances that will eventually determine your destiny in life. And I think when you take being an attorney, being a former athlete, and you mix those two, and then, the equation and the sum is AFL commissioner. I can tell you it's a great job, great experience, and I think we have great partners, and I'm ready to carry the torch and bring something bigger and better.
Final score, Oregon Black Bears 27, Washington Wolfpack 25.
As time went on, the Black Bears ended up shutting down for the 2024 season. In a letter to fans, President Pat Johnson said they were unable to find opponents for its final home games and reimburse fans for any tickets purchased. He also said, quote, "We will immediately begin preparations for our 2025 launch, but the chances of that appear to be unlikely." The team played some home games at Oregon State Fair and Exposition Center. A representative shared with Arena Insider that the team owes more than $30,000 to the venue. Many of its vendors also haven't received any payment. In reviewing business files, the team's legal address is the same as the censor, and a person that filed it was Travell Gaines. When asked if they knew about it, the representative said they were unaware.
Good evening, everybody. Within the last couple of hours, the Rapid City Marshals announced the team is immediately ceasing operations. Team owners say the decision was made due to lack of leadership from previous Arena Football League officials and unfulfilled promises that made it impossible for the team to sustain operations. Now, it's been a troublesome past few weeks for the organization. 2 weeks ago, a home game was canceled at the last minute after players refused to take the field, upset they hadn't received their full pay. Now, team owner Wes Johnson said in a statement he understands the frustration players had with the team and the league. He said he was hopeful the Marshals would be able to survive, but unfortunately that is not the case.
As weeks went on, the league appeared to be in solid shape and was making efforts to complete the season, including the playoffs. But on June 18th, the West Texas Desert Hawks ceased operations, now becoming the 8th team.
Today was kind of a sucker punch a little bit, just because you know, we've been feeling really good about the direction that we've been going. Obviously, it was not good at the beginning, but, you know, things happen.
Owner Zach Bug announced he was also stepping down, but at the same time criticized the Arena Football management.
So we told them pretty much to go screw themselves. We're not going to deal with you guys anymore. You've lied to us enough. You've already taken millions and millions of dollars from all 16 owners at this point, because there's 16 teams in the league, and it's a total scam deal. And that's just what it is. Teams will not be a part of the AFL next year if it continues the route it's going. And I can assure you that there's probably 3 or 4 teams that want to be a part of the AFL next year, as long as the structure and the false promises are the way they are right now. You know, the ownership group of G6, I do have respect for certain individuals of G6 Sports. There are deals in place, you know, with their media deals that they're paying money for. Also with the Arena Bowl, and they're paying money for this Arena Bowl instead of giving the money back to the owners that have suffered. All of us owners have suffered this entire time, but instead of giving those dollars back to us owners, they would rather put it in media deals to make themselves look good, and also an Arena Bowl to make them look good, so they can, you know, potentially have the AFL next year to save face.
The remaining 8 teams finished the season, and the AFL inked a deal with CBS Sports Network to air the playoffs.
So Bailey Giffen to get the Outlaws into the Arena Bowl. Check that, it is a 39-yard attempt. That's the official, 39 yards. Good snap, good hold. Kick is on the way, and it is good. The Outlaws are going to Arena Bowl 33. Wow. What a game.
Then the league announced its plans for the Arena Bowl, but it was something no one expected.
For Arena Bowl 33 on CBS Sports Network, welcome inside American Dream Mall for a site for a championship game unlike anything we've ever seen. It features the Albany Firebirds from upstate New York taking on the Billings Outlaws.
It was a good-sized crowd featuring mall visitors and fans of both teams. It was clear the move was to get the game on a bigger stage rather than awarding the top team with the chance to host. What was the decision behind it from an owner's standpoint?
We didn't have a decision. Chris and G6 had made certain promises to owners to get them to buy into this. Obviously, the cost of the arena would be paid for, transportation costs, expenses, hotels, things like that would all be covered by G6 so that there would be no loss to the teams. That didn't happen. We get to the Arena Bowl, I think Tuesday. I got there Tuesday night before the Arena Bowl. Most of the bills hadn't been paid by G6. The hotels hadn't been paid by G6. It was just Lee Hutton lies all over again. If it wasn't for the guys in Albany, Mike Quarta, Andy Gulcher, Jeff Fisher, and myself putting well in probably over $300,000 into the Arena Bowl, there was never going to be an Arena Bowl.
The Outlaws won the Arena Bowl 46-41. Longtime league commissioner Jerry Kurz was brought back to the front office mid-season to serve as general counsel and senior advisor of player personnel. He spoke to us at the game.
It's a work in progress, but it always is. We need to remember who we are. We need to be fan-based in the communities. We need to be regional. So we need to build up our markets save on travel costs, more opportunity for players. But this season started with some challenges that I think everybody can see. We turned the ship around, got great leadership under G6. Jeff Fisher puts his reputation on the line, and if anything possible now, it'll only get better.
Right now, it's very important that we don't want to take too many strides all at once, right? We have to make sure that the foundation is stable. And I think getting from season 1 to season 2 is going to be a significant jump for us. And I believe once we do that, and we don't stumble out the gates starting season 2 and everything is, the infrastructure is there, then it allows us to build on top of, the end of season 2 and beyond.
Heading into the offseason, there seemed to be a disconnect between G6 Sports and the remaining team owners. On September 4th, I spoke with CEO Chris Chetty on if there will be another season.
I was given the hand that I was dealt to the best of my ability. I'm still, financially responsible for everything that has happened, everything that has taken place with the league and everything that's moving forward with the league. So I still take full accountability on that. But at the same time, I'm not rushing to make decisions because other people are rushing me to do that. You know what I mean? Like that's essentially my stance on everything.
Then later that day, all of the 8 remaining teams, the Firebirds, Outlaws, Nashville Cats, Orlando Predators, Salina Liberty, Southwest Kansas Storm, Washington Wolfpack, and Wichita Regulators, broke away from the AFL to form a new league, Arena Football 1.
The fact of the matter is that the Arena Bowl costs the teams approximately between $300,000 and $400,000 a loss. We could have had a big name celebrity concert, national broadcast at the top seat for a fraction of that price. It was a horrible business decision. They're making business decisions, spending other people's money. It's just something that we're tired of dealing with. We're tired of dealing with G6. We're tired of dealing with Chetty. We're tired of dealing with Lee Hunton. We're tired of dealing with AFL management, tired of dealing with AFL Capital Partners. They're just a bunch of liars, frauds, and people who deceit people. So, and we just don't want anything to do with it. So that's why we decided to form our own league and distance ourselves as far as possible as we can from those in the past.
Jeff Fisher will serve as commissioner and Jerry Kurz will be CEO.
We want people that have the football knowledge of the indoor and arena football industry to be running our organization. And, with Jerry Kurz, Gary Compton, Jeff Fisher leading our organization, it doesn't get much better than that.
AF1 aiming to establish a new beginning, all while the historic Arena Football League is preparing for what could be the beginning to the end.
I think we have a lot to offer our fans. I think that, when they're paying their $15 or $20 ticket every week, we know how hard they work for that money. We know that there's so much other stuff they could do with that money. And it's very flattering when you see 3, 4, 5, 6,000 people at a game spending their hard-earned money to see your team play. And I want to do what we need to do to keep everyone happy, to keep a quality product on the field, make sure we have consistent rule sets that are exercised, make sure we have good officiating, make sure we have quality venues with quality teams, and that we have a great 2025 season all around the country.